Is AI going to replace our jobs? Well, it's inevitable, to be perfectly honest. I'm already seeing firsthand some introductions in regards to AI and soon, no doubt, even robotics that will be replacing people in the workplace. Now, we recently had a workplace meeting. So I work full-time, six-figure professional in workplace health, safety, and environmental. I'm a specialist in that profession. And we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago now with some heads of the business where it was openly discussed in regards to AI agents replacing, I guess, currently manual tasks and tasks that could be automated by an AI agent. Now, it's a little bit concerning to some degree, but ultimately I understand that this is the new future. And so I kept any, I guess, thoughts of concern to myself. It's not going to outright impact me immediately at my level, but I can see a lot of people at an administrative level becoming concerned with the introduction of AI agents in the workplace. So in some ways it is something to be fearful of, but we are in a position where we're having at least some amount of, I guess, alert to the fact that this is happening in our world, and that we all have some level of empowerment to try and make things better, or at least different. And by that I mean, we can upskill, reskill, move into different roles. It's not ideal though. I understand that at least as humans we have that flexibility, but it's not an ideal position to be in. Some of us have spent decades on honing our craft and perfecting our careers, only to now be staring down the barrel of an AI, I guess, staring straight back at you, but ready to replace you. So, for those of you who don't really know what an AI agent is, an AI agent it's an automated bit of code, if you will, that can learn. Well, take that one step back. It's set up to perform regular tasks that would be deemed fairly mundane, I guess, at least by an AI standard, where it can repeat that process not only faster, but it can learn to navigate nuances and changes within that space to a degree. So some examples of areas in most businesses where AI agents could start to become, I guess, introduced would be the likes of email triage. So where a business has a primary form of reception or help desk or something along those lines, where a fair number of emails are communicated through that particular central point. And currently you may have someone at an administrative task that fields those emails that come in and redirects them manually to certain members of the business. So what an AI agent can do is it can actually read and examine the incoming email, much like what is currently done to identify spam or junk mail. But this looks for keywords in amongst that email structure so that it can automatically redirect that email to the right department and potentially even the right person within that department. And that pretty much saves hours, if not an entire person's worth of work from doing that, depending on the size of the business. There are plenty of other things like data entry tasks, anything that is currently done in spreadsheet form, where there's manual data entry, even if the data entry is from a series of reports that are run and then it's collated and imported into the likes of Excel, that can all now be 100% automated, and no one needs to be part of that process at all, other than to vet any of the anomalies that can come about from it. So the AI agent is designed to alert a human if it cannot function correctly. So like if there is something amongst its directed task that it can't make sense of, it will not process it, and it will basically shelve that particular item, but alert a human of the fact that it couldn't progress with that. So whilst its range and I guess what AI agents are commonly thought of doing in the workplace right this minute, AI agents are actually, they're capable of doing far more detailed tasks, especially if you start intertwining them with other facets of robotics, automation. And that starts removing even more time away from people's tasks or jobs that they currently hold, and or removing their jobs completely. So that was something I just felt like discussing here, because there's a big plus to the end of this actually, and that I've felt this discovery after contemplating this, not whilst. So, and it's a good place to stand in my opinion. So I'll share that with you after the next example that has also come up through work, but not in the same meeting. But in conversation, there are members of senior management within the business that are already talking about robotics replacing our workers. And so these are, I'm not going to go into detail in regards to, who my place of employment is or any of that sort of stuff. Keep it very professional. And at this moment, they're only talking about it. But I think there are businesses that are not only talking about it, but are very serious about it, should they find a cost-effective replacement for people in the form of robots or an automated process with machines and computers. And now we have management going overseas to look at technologically advanced expos happening around the place, showcasing robotics and where we are. And there are already some prototypes that they are aware of that are game changers in their particular space within the working world. Now, that's when stuff starts to get even more concerning, in my opinion, because, again, not that I'm overly concerned personally, because I don't have a physical-based role. I'm white collar. It's not to say I couldn't become blue collar, but blue collar roles are probably one of the last ones we would think of being impacted, and yet I think they're going to be the first to be impacted and in large numbers. So I can talk to a previous employer that where I had the same role as a health, safety and environmental specialist, and I've been there for a number of years, and they were in the transport and logistics industry. And I left that position, what are we now? Nearly 2 years ago, I guess, or a year and a half ago. And they were already looking at bringing in electric vehicles at a large scale. So they're playtesting like trucks. We're talking large trucks, bulk trucks at the moment. So, sort of looking at 4 to 8 ton trucks, sort of, I guess, 6 to 10 pallet equivalent vehicles, trucks that are EV. Now, that's the first step, but this robotics expo, from what I heard alluded to, is in regards to autopiloting technology. Now, I don't know to what extent they were talking about. I think they were more talking about, like things within an environment, such as, and I can use this as an example because it happens in real life now, are the RoboVacs that we have. So it can draw a map and navigate your home without needing to be driven as such. And it's, you literally turn it on, press start, or you have a schedule and it does the same cleaning cycle all the time. There's no human involvement required after it starts. That, and even they've been around for a little while, but I believe that there will be a further play on that, and eventually, and I've heard of talks in regards to Musk and satellite navigation for autopiloting vehicles potentially. Well, that might be the next step. And if you have a series of automation and robotics tied into driving certain vehicles on our roads, you're talking quite a large chunk of a workforce. An entire industry is going to be impacted by that. I've seen it in warehousing and logistics. You've got robotics have already taken over, packing type staff, even forklift operating staff, because it's all done by robotics now. Literally, an order comes in to for instance, a super depot. So a supermarket will place its restocking order, and that comes from a super depot, and that order is picked and packed and placed onto pallets, wrapped and everything, all without people involved. And it even to a point where it can identify any anomalies with product. So if it picks product and it's damaged, or if it spots a leak, or if it's out of shape, it scans best before dates. It knows when something is in date. It auto rotates the stock that it's got on hand, so it's moving the oldest dated product first. So, and that's happening right now. And these are all, in the scheme of things, these are all at a fairly basic, low level at the moment. And whilst no one in the AI or robotics game is willing to bet on timeframes as to when this really impacts us at a massive rate, the way things are going, I'd be saying 5 years. Now, I know that it seemed to be a little bit doom and gloom, and it's hard to talk about such things when it can impact people's livelihoods without it, I guess, having that pressure feeling towards what I'm saying. But bringing this back to the creative space, which is what all of my material will always come back to, because I'm very passionate about people finding their creative outlet, their creative space. Now, AI is not going to take over our creative space. It's something that humanity will not allow. We're already seeing that with the likes of YouTube, where it is further emphasizing its policy, its content policy, and it has recently been targeting any form of mass-produced AI, so artificial intelligence created material, and demonetizing it or not monetizing it moving forward. It's always been in its policy, but not overly I guess, enforced, because we're only now stepping into a realm where AI and robotics and automation is on the up and up at a very fast rate. But it's not going to come in and take over the creative space. And I was confident about that before even the recent, I guess, re-emphasizing of its own policy, being YouTube doing that. That's just reinforced my view on the fact that AI, we will not be relying on AI to entertain us through the arts. We will not settle for, AI music, AI movies, AI books. It's all going to come from people, both those that created and consumer. Well, obviously consuming it. AI is not going to. Well, AI does consume our material. I guess that's how it learns. But more to the point, with this concern in mind that all of us have in the back of our minds up here somewhere, where we're going, okay, so how's this going to impact me, this AI stuff? When is it going to impact me? It's uncertain, right? It's a very uncertain space, our world currently, on more than just the AI front, I might add. The fear of war right now is on everybody's mind, sadly, and my hearts and thoughts go out to everyone that's impacted by that directly, let alone us that are impacted indirectly through our own thoughts. But in regards to AI and AI taking over our jobs, we have a real opportunity to shelve the fact that that's happening. And I don't mean put your head in the sand, because it's happening and it is going to continue to happen. There's no stopping that, okay? What I'm actually suggesting there is that don't spend time being concerned about something you cannot change. All right? It's very easy to get stuck in that overthinking process, which can then lead to a form of anxiety on a day-to-day basis at its worst, and then even depression is something that we can all face if we allow our minds and our brains to take over and continuously churn over this negative connotation of AI removing me from the workplace. Then what? Okay. But let's harness our creative outlet, our creative space, because that's where we can turn to earning from it. Think about this for a minute. You might be watching this or listening to this with the idea that you'd like to create something of your own. It's very much what drove me into the creative space initially, was the fact that I just want to create something. So I'm just going to cool that down a little bit. And that's still brilliant. That's still a heavy, or not heavy, that's still a great primary reason to create videos, as an example, on YouTube. And definitely something or reason why I started creating on YouTube. But I've now created a series of offerings in regards to what I can offer as a service to sell to viewers, depending on where they're at on their journey or what they prefer as an individual. I'm not going to go into that detail on this video or this recording, but it's given me further reassurance that it's a good thing to do, even if you didn't have the initial concept in mind to monetize your creativity. But with the way of the world being so uncertain, I think it's the best time to at least put those options into play. And so for me, a brand new channel with only 30 subscribers at the time of this being published, that's fine. I'm not expecting any of my 30 subscribers right now to be interested in anything I've got to say in regards to offers, my offers in particular. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, and that's fine. But now, whilst your channel or whatever your creative venture is, whilst it's in its infancy, now is the time to truly look deep into your skill set, your experience, that you could bring to a form of monetizing what you do. And I think that's a very, very valid option to explore whilst the world is in a state of chaos right now and uncertainty when it comes to AI, automation, and robotics. Because it gives you a potential to fall back on it. And personally, I think the creative space is only going to get bigger. Because as more and more of us, lose our work, I guess, things are going to change and people's focus is going to change. People are going to want to connect with people in some way. And if there's no longer a workplace for them to go to, at least even if it's temporary, while they're retrenched and they look for some other form of employment, in between that, they want to escape any of the negative connotations that are happening in the world at that time. And so they will turn to consume. But not only that, that's where they'll reconnect. That's where they'll connect with people. It's where we all will connect with people. I'm a firm believer in this, and I think the creative space is somewhere where humanity is going to truly shine. And to be honest, it's where we should have truly be where we should have truly shone or be truly shining in the first place. The days of old, anything that we put our hands to, even in the industrial era and before, when it came to building and creating things, everything we created and did put an element of art into it. Things like just typical furniture, chairs, tables, dressers, desks, they were all quite ornate. And the houses themselves even, the skirting, the roofing, the pelmets, doors, all of your fittings, your fixtures, they were all quite ornate and beautiful to look at, depending on what your taste was. But now everything is so mass-produced, plain as anything. We've moved away from that, and I believe we are going to see a turn of events. So if there's one plus to take away from AI's introduction to our world, it is that it will allow us to focus more on how we survive from relying more on our creative elements, not just our sheer ability to be able to do X to earn Y. So I think now is a great time to start a YouTube channel, if that's your thing. If not, at least create something that draws on your creativity. All right, could be another form of social media if that's your thing. It could be more traditional, maybe you want to perform music. Maybe you want to paint and show off your artwork, maybe in a gallery, maybe a virtual gallery. Maybe you are a writer. And yes, there's all this talk about AI ripping ideas from existing books and people being able to mass produce literally copies of works without knowing how to write. But trust me, people are going to want real material from real people. Maybe you could take your written literature and turn it into spoken word here. I think that would be quite cool. Poets, storytellers, dancing, anything that you put your mind to, that you've ever done, and you think that age is a barrier. A lot of us had this innate ability to just be creative when we were children. Even if we weren't good at drawing, we drew. If we weren't good at color coordinating, we still colored in things. You know, we had an imagination without limits. And then for whatever reason, once we start going through puberty, we have the whole adult theme pushed on us so hard that for a lot of us, our creative mind gets buried. Well, now's the time to give it a rebirth, revitalize your creative mind. Come forth, play test a few different things if you're not sure, but now's the time. One, it's good for your mental health, your state of mind throughout all this chaos, but two, you may prove to yourself that there is a way for you to monetize your creativity. And I hope you can. I hope I can. Because the other benefit to be able to do it is not only just to survive, but if I was ever blessed with and being fortunate enough to replace my primary income with income as a return from this, for instance, my creative space, well, that allows me to put even more time and focus and, specific effort into my creativity. And so to me, what that equates to is actually helping even more people. That in itself is amazing. I hope one day I can get to that. And I guess the sooner the better, but we're all in that same boat. I'm not going to stress about pushing it or anything. It is what it is. So that's been an interesting conversation, I have to say. I wasn't sure where that was going to go, but I'm happy with where that went. It finished on a very positive connotation. My name's Carl. I help the anxious people to find their mental clarity and then gain creative confidence. Something I'm still doing for myself right now. I've owned businesses. I still own a business as well as doing this, as well as working full time. I have taught a number of people, either direct reports and or colleagues of mine over the years, on ways to break down those barriers that stop them from speaking in public, whether that through delivering training modules, offering presentations, or even in meeting formats. And I bring that confidence that I've learned and shared with others here to YouTube. It's a little bit of a different space, but it's still helping people nevertheless. And I will find my best ways forward to help everybody as I go. And I'm confident that I can do that, and I will be doing that. I mentioned me, structuring some offerings that I will have. I'm not going to go into detail about that here. But by all means, if you're curious, you can have a look and just be reassured that anything and everything that I know that I could possibly share, I will be putting in video form. All right, so I'm not going to put my knowledge behind a paywall, which then means restricting what I share here by video. But as I'm sure you would understand and could appreciate, some people may have specific, barriers or, blockages from moving them forward, that even if I had 100 or 1,000 videos in my library, I still may not cater for their specific requirement, and yet I do know how to help them. And so that's where these, different tiers of offers come from that I have since implemented. And so don't ever feel bad that you might start thinking about monetizing or what your monetization channels could look like. I will do, now that I've spoken about this, I will release a video in regards to monetization options, what I deem to be the most lucrative and least lucrative. Even though I'm not monetizing right now, I've got background in business. My business I still run is in consultation, so I consult. So I know what that is. This is going to be more of a mentoring service that I provide. But there's a multitude of different avenues you can take. And the idea is to play to your strengths. Anyway, so if this has been of any help whatsoever, please subscribe. And by doing so, you'll not only help the channel, but you'll, if you click the bell after you subscribe, you'll get alerts on more content that comes out as it comes out. So I do appreciate you, and please look after yourself.